For today's devotional, we are going to be discussing the question of how do I get into a discipling relationship. Here at Rock Valley Chapel, we are encouraging people to get in at least one of three kinds of relationships. We're hoping people will get involved as a student and learning from somebody, getting in a relationship with somebody that's got a more mature walk or a more experienced walk, regardless of their age. Then we're asking people to be willing to mentor those who are not quite as far along as they are in their walk with Jesus Christ. And then we're hoping that people would be in a relationship with somebody, maybe somebody they work with, or a neighbor, or somebody in their family, or somebody they share a hobby with, just a friend. We're hoping that they'd be in a relationship with somebody who doesn't know Jesus, and that in the development of that relationship, they would be open to sharing Christ with them and pointing them to Jesus. Our model for this is the Apostle Paul, who after he was saved on the Damascus Road, went to Arabia and learned. So he was a student. He learned how to be a Christian even though he had been studying the Old Testament his entire life. And then as Paul grew in his faith, he was mentoring all along. He was mentoring people like, say, Timothy and Titus. And then all along his walk, he was sharing Christ with those that didn't know Jesus. We can just think of the whole Mars Hill discussion that Paul had and so many other occasions. So Paul was living out the kind of discipling life that we want to try to replicate at Rock Valley Chapel. So he was a student, he was a mentor, and he was always sharing Christ with those around him. So we want to encourage people to do that. The question is, how do I do that? There are a couple of ways, and the first most natural way is that if there is a person in the church that you admire and you know that they're further along in their walk than you and you'd like them to mentor you, then you should just prayerfully approach them and ask them if they'd mentor you. And if there's somebody in the church that you know is not quite as far along in their walk and that you might be willing to mentor them, you could prayerfully and humbly approach them and ask them if they would like to be mentored. And then, of course, just all of the relationships you have, that any of us have with non-believers, we're hoping those would be avenues for us to share the gospel with them. The second way to go about it is to just contact me. I've had this happen on many occasions in the past several months where somebody would call me and say, Pastor Tim, I'd like to be a mentor. Is there somebody in the church that needs a mentor? Or conversely, I need a mentor. Can you think of somebody in the church that might be able to mentor me? And all I do is make some calls. I make them all anonymous so that the people I'm calling don't know who's requesting and vice versa, so that if somebody declines the invitation, then nobody's hurt. But on several occasions, we've been able to kind of bring a couple of people together so that they could be in a meaningful discipling relationship, and they're already bearing fruit. The numbers of people who are getting involved in these relationships are increasing dramatically at Rock Valley Chapel, and I'm very excited about that. And so I hope that you'll prayerfully consider being in at least one and eventually all three of those kinds of relationships where you're a learner, you're a mentor, and you're sharing the gospel with somebody that doesn't know Jesus. So if you have any questions, give me a call. Thank you very much, and God bless you.